I don't know if I haven't. Welcome everyone to the Planning Committee meeting, number 238. So just go through a few procedural matters beforehand. So first, acknowledgement of country. The committee wishes to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people as traditional owners of the land, waterways and skies. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our greater Geelong community today. I'm Councillor Andrew Katos. I'm the planning chair of the committee, and I'll introduce the other panel members. We have Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Story, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Burson, and we have Councillor Sullivan, who's here online as part of the committee. And the officers we have who are present, Julie Liu, Rory O'Loughlin, John Rush and Joanne Van Slageren. They're here. We have apologies from Councillor Contell, Mayor Contell, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Sinclair and Councillor Eddie Contell. At this point, do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? None? Okay. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, that the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 24th of June 2024 be confirmed. Can I have a mover for that, please?
Who was here?
I have to have a look. I just have to check who was at that one. Well, I wasn't, so I know that.
Move it.
Councillor Sullivan, were you at the last Planning Committee meeting?
Unsure, Mr. Chair.
Wasn't sure. You can second if you weren't at the meeting, can't you? We can confirm those minutes at the next meeting. Now, the procedure for tonight's hearing. So the officer will present a brief summary of written report to the committee. The panel may ask questions of the officer. The objectors and submitters will detail their concerns to the committee. There's a 3-minute time limit for each objector. The panel may ask questions of the objector and submitter. And just on that point, it's for the panel members to ask questions. It's not for questions to be backwards and forwards between objectors and the applicant, okay? The applicant will detail their application and respond to any objector submitted concerns of the committee, and they have a 5 to 10 minute time limit for the applicant. The panel may ask questions of the applicant. The panel will further discuss the application and make a decision. The decision of this committee is a final decision of council acting on a delegated authority. If anyone is aggrieved by the decision of this committee, they may appeal to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal in Melbourne. Our staff can assist with this process during office hours. We'll move to the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Can everyone hear me clearly? Great. So for the matter of consideration tonight is in relation to planning permit planning permit application PP 1176/2023. This is for 99 Breakwater Road in Breakwater. The applicant for this application is Geelong Racing Club. I'd now like to provide a quick summary of the application. So the site is a Crown land and has an approximate site area of 45 hectares. It's got frontages to Breakwater Road, St Albans Road, Fellmongers Road and Cosgrove Street. So the site contains no easement and has a gradual slope from west to east. The site is currently used as a racecourse and is home to the Geelong Racing Club. The main entrance and access to the administration building and grandstand and parking area are sited within the western portion of the site, but predominantly all access are mainly towards the north or the west to the site. There are existing stable facilities that exist within the southwest corner of the site, with existing vehicle access provided from Breakwater Road, Fowler Street and Cosgrove Street. In terms of the surrounding area to the subject site, there are a mixture of uses including residential uses to the east and to the west. Industrial uses to the south is across Fellmongers Road, and heavier industrial uses are further west of Breakwater Road. So directly north of the subject site is the Geelong Showgrounds, and the subject site is located about approximately 3.5 kilometres southwest of the Geelong CBD. In terms of the controls to the subject site is within the special use zone and is not affected by any overlays. I wish to highlight the purpose of the zone as it will foreshadow the primary consideration of this application, and that is it encourages to encourage the use and development of Geelong Showground and Racecourse for a range of entertainment, recreational, commercial and community activities. The current proposal seeks to construct 5 new detached buildings. Within these buildings will comprise a total of 100 stables. To the south of these new buildings will be 5 new horse walkers, and then to the east of these buildings will be 1 new horse pool. Permit triggers for this particular application is only related solely to buildings and works, and a permit is not required for the use of the racecourse. The application was advertised in accordance with the requirements of the planning scheme and received a total of 6 objections. A detailed outline of these objections are provided on pages 18 to 28 of the agenda, but in summary, the concerns predominantly relate to the following: emissions of odour, noise, increased vermin issues and light spill, compliance history associated with the site, setbacks, built forms and intensification of the proposal to the dwellings along Cosgrove Street, relocation suggestions of works away from residential dwellings, unsightly dirt mound, trucks using Cosgrove Street, devaluation of properties, removal of existing vegetation, noise during construction, increased dust emissions from removal of vegetation, consideration purpose of the application, and compatibility of intensification of use adjoining dwellings. Following the public notice period, a consultation meeting was held on the 15th of March 2024 with the applicant, council officers and objectors. No resolution has come about from the consultation meeting and no objections have been withdrawn since. However, there was an acoustic and odour assessment that was submitted following this consultation meeting and was circulated to all parties for consideration. As part of the planning process and consideration, we referred the application to the relevant internal units for consideration. This includes the Environmental Health Unit, the Environmental Unit and the Parks Department. These departments generally support the proposal subject to the conditions outlined in the next section of the agenda. On balance, the application is considered to suitably respond to the policy under the decision guidelines of the zone. It is considered that the facility will essentially be replacing what's already existing and will provide a more modern and upgraded set of new facilities to the site. The structures will be non-habitable, low scale, consistent with existing structures, cohesive and appropriately articulated through an open field design. The layout of these structures will essentially be in a more uniformed rather than a scattered layout compared to the existing structures. In Furthermore, it is considered that the proposal will contribute to the improvement and economic viability of the Geelong Racecourse, a major regional sports facility for Greater Geelong which contributes to the ongoing development of social and cultural infrastructure in accordance with the purpose of the zone and policy framework as outlined earlier. In addition, conditions have been recommended to ensure ongoing management of the amenity-based aspects such as noise, odour and dust. For the matters above, I like to conclude, based on the detailed assessment of the proposal, the application has demonstrated acceptable compliance with the relevant permit requirements under the zone. Therefore, I am recommending Council to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to the conditions outlined in the following section of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Now we'll commence with the objectors wishing to speak, and I understand Jen Maitland would like to go first. Is that correct? Yes? That's actually Mainland. I beg your pardon, sorry. My apologies, Jen. Officer.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, look, in light. There's not a lot of objectors this evening. If we had quite a few objectors, I'd probably be a bit more stricter. But in light of that, that's fine. Please commence.
Do I take a seat?
Yes, please. And the microphone's there.
Yep. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so my name's Jen Mainland. I'm representing Robert Mainland from 36 Cosgrove Street. He was my brother. A little bit about me. I'm a full-time equestrian coach and trainer. I've been riding and competing since I was 4 years old. I was president of the largest equestrian association in the state, the Horse Riding Clubs Association of Victoria, for the maximum allowable 4-year term, and I'm now vice president. I teach all disciplines and all ages, and I'm regularly flown interstate to coach. I have online virtual clients all around Australia and in the USA. My focus, and I'm known worldwide for this, is on safety and horse welfare. I have been a key presenter at the Pony Club Australia National Safety Conference, and I've represented Pony Club Australia on trips to China, shining a spotlight on horse welfare. I myself currently compete in dressage at a high level. I'm not going to get into the Geelong Racing Club's blatant flouting of VCAT directives or the illegal corrugated iron stables jammed up against the Cosgrove Street fence line. Nor will I harp on about the Geelong Racing Club ignoring stable waste laws while the smell of rotting urine and manure wafts by on the breeze. I actually considered bringing a bag of stable waste with me today to pop in the corner over there, just to set the scene. Horses do an average of 12 poos per day, and the average racehorse at 550 kilograms generates 16.5 litres of urine per day each. 100 stables will generate 1,200 poos and 1,650 litres of urine every single day. That's the equivalence of 11 full bathtubs of urine per day, just to put it into context for you. The houses are 20 metres away from the stables now, 20 metres to the kitchen window, and they've been allowed to get away with this. It beggars belief, especially when there is an industrial area just up Fellmongers Road. I'm also skipping the details of how loading and unloading horses onto floats at 5 a.m. can sound like a doof-doof festival gone haywire, with beeping trucks and panicked horses banging and kicking. The proposal is that this happens 33 metres from people's bedrooms. Nor am I going to talk about the light pollution discouraging the local wildlife, nor the removal of old-growth gum trees, which have been proven to assist with climate control. I'd like to make it crystal clear that I'm not against racing. I work closely with thoroughbreds every single day. I'd say about 60% of my clients ride off-the-track thoroughbreds, and I'm heavily involved with Racing Victoria in promoting and enabling life after racing. the careers of ex-racehorses, and I've owned racehorses myself, including racehorses that have raced at Geelong racetrack. I've also worked closely with the amazing retired racehorses at Living Legends, such as Might and Power and Apache Cat, leading them down Swanson Street, or being led by them down Swanson Street on Cup Eve. I am, however, against cruelty in racing. I strongly object to this permit on the grounds of poor facility design, environmental impact, and its failure to provide even a basic quality of life for the horses on site. Local government must uphold community values, yet this facility fails to meet even minimal welfare standards instead of improving conditions. So instead of improving conditions, it reinforces outdated, unacceptable practices. The new facility should be better than the current one, but it isn't. Victoria's Code of Practice sets minimum standards, but the upcoming Victorian Animal Care and Protection Bill will introduce legally enforceable housing requirements and recognise animal sentience. This facility will fail to meet these legal requirements, making it both unethical and unsustainable. Stabling does not meet a horse's basic needs. This facility will confine horses to small boxes for over 20 hours a day, with 100 horses crammed into high-density space, a system no better than battery farming, an equine sweatshop. Horses in these environments suffer stress and develop abnormal behaviours. This facility must have a larger footprint with outdoor yards to allow movement and socialisation. A stable must provide enough room for even the largest horse to lie down, get REM sleep and rise without injury. Horses deprived of proper rest suffer serious health consequences, yet this design ignores this fundamental welfare need. Horses are herd animals. They need to see and ideally touch other horses for mental well-being. This facility isolates them, depriving them of social interaction and increasing stress and behavioural problems. The horse walkers must have cushioned matting, not as a luxury, but to prevent joint damage and noise pollution. The horse pool is a major welfare concern. Swimming is unnatural for horses. Numerous thoroughbreds drown in these pools every year, and it's swept under the carpet. This facility must include strict safety measures or reconsider the pool altogether, which would be preferable. While in theory, odour should not impact the local area, in reality, as I mentioned, it does. Repeated complaints from residents about poor manure management have been ignored, leaving the community to suffer the consequences. This facility is fundamentally flawed. It must be redesigned and relocated or rejected. Thank you.
Any of the members of the panel have questions? Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Councillor Kados. Thanks, Jen, for your insights, particularly given your work in the industry, and thanks for representing your brother. I was very sorry to hear the news. I'd be interested. You don't actually live at the property, do you? But your brother did.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't live there yet. I possibly will move there.
Sure. Have the problems that you've outlined in your objection existed for the entire period that either you or your family or Robert actually lived there?
Yes. So the problems that I've outlined problems that Robert has highlighted to the council before, and I'm sure he's familiar to most. So they're the problems that Robert had outlined, and he sent all those emails to you as well, Melissa, or Councillor Cadwell.
Did you feel that were there opportunities availed to you to actually attend a meeting with the applicant and work through some of the objections? And
This is my first chance to come to council. I only found out about this meeting on Sunday when I met Maria by phone, and so this has been quite a quick kind of thing for me to do. I could be much more detailed, but you'd probably hate that. But I have been shocked. Like, I'm around horses every day. I probably stink of horses right now. I've been working with horses all day today and riding and coaching clients. I am shocked at the standard of welfare that I see across the road. I'm shocked that those horses are in the illegal corrugated iron stable, that in 42-degree heat, that the horses, that they don't care, that they are about these particular trainers are much more about the money than the welfare of the horses. And it breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart. And the noise and the kicking of the horses in the stables, that's going to, there's a 15% increase, and all jammed in together in rows with this proposal. So, yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before you finish presenting?
I don't think so. As I said, I would really like you to reconsider the whole thing and relocate. Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much, Jen.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, Andrew Mudge. Andrew, please commence.
Thanks very much for meeting with us today and giving us the opportunity to say our piece. Last year we were uneasy about our concerns being heard, as our local council at the time was also the president of the racecourse. I am a landowner and a local resident on Cosgrove Street, and I live directly across the road from the stables we're here to discuss today. My bedroom window is approximately 20 metres away from the race club boundary. We understand the planning permit has been submitted to council as an upgrade to existing facilities. However, we see this proposal as a significant redevelopment of the current facilities that will have direct impacts on residents in the area. The racing club should have consulted residents during the planning process, and the initial application should have been submitted with the appropriate traffic and environmental studies. Under the proposal, the current number of stables will not technically change, but the redevelopment will increase the current horse walker numbers from 1 to 5 and will include 10 horse unloading float bays and a training pool. The upgrade facilities will meet an increased number of horses housed that are currently there and will result in increased traffic and noise pollution. We do not believe that the results from the acoustic report conducted last year was a true representation of the sounds emitted by the stables if the redevelopment is greenlit. This is an industry that operates 24 hours, 7 days a week. For example, we've often been kept up in the dead of night because horses across the road have been placed on horse walkers that sound like thunder at 4 a.m. There's often trucks reversing, the sounds of upset horses kicking horse floats in the early hours. This isn't a fresh start to the day for my partner and myself to get up and go to work in the morning. This facility development is going to amplify that even more. We are also concerned about the proposed tree removal outlined in the planning permit to accommodate the 5 horse walkers on the Falmongers Road boundary. The proposed tree removal will have a negative impact on local bird life and the cockatoos that live there. And with regards to traffic, the intersection at Fowler and Tucker Street is also an accident waiting to happen. To finish up, I would like to say the decision today will have a lasting impact for the residents of Cosgrove and Fowler Street. Your job on the panel here today is to deliver a positive outcome for residents and racecourse alike. I strongly feel the best outcome for both parties is to move the stables off the Breakwater Road side of the racecourse where there are no residents. This would mitigate any potential disputes from local residents and the racing club in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Maria Sarah.
Hello, I'm Peter Sarah from Select Architects, representing Sam and Maria. So we've got a couple of queries, I guess, with the reports that we generate. I know they've been circulated around council. One of the things that both the acoustic and the odour reports were predicated on was to say, basically there's no intensification, so it's like for like replacement. But when we look at the number of horses on site now, and it's because the stables are in fairly poor conditions, there's not many horses there, and already we hear about the problems and the complaints are there. So when these stables are instated, the reason they're doing it is so they're at capacity. So there is quite an intensification of the site. So the reports as they were put together, basically what they said is, well, there's no intensification because we're replacing the same number of stables. So we did query at that at the time, but nothing come back. So that was one of the things that was brought up when we had the council meeting previously, that we just wanted to see how the numbers come up and what the experts said, but I don't think it's been addressed. Understanding it's the same number of stables there, but there's going to be so many more horses, traffic movements, odour emissions on site. And I think part of the angst here as well is after the last planning permit was put in place, there was a number of conditions that were met, and they just hadn't been adhered to. I don't know anyone that's driven past it, but the mounds there, the state of the stables and the collection, it hasn't been upkept, and I think as part of this permit, it's going to be exacerbated as well. I know that's not part of the concerns in granting it all, but as an architect and master planning it all, I echo the sentiments before that when you look at the master plan, they want more stables, they want to upgrade them, and obviously the manner in which they do it could be improved. But this is an ideal opportunity to take it away from the residents. This has been an ongoing concern and brought up a number of times, and I haven't seen any options to relocate these stables. Like, there's all these other interfaces where the stables should be, and if they're replacing them, let's look at putting them somewhere else. Did I get it all?
Peter. Oh, any questions? Sorry. No? Thank you. Glenn Brown.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be pretty quick because I know that it's going to go through. I know that the council's already organised everything, and I'm fairly 100% certain that those buildings will be built, the extra horses will go in there. I don't have a problem with it. As much as these guys might be just surprised that I'm saying that, but this gentleman here from the Geelong racetrack last year, I spoke to him about my issues, which were rats, the non-maintaining of the walls, and I've just been down there today and took a whole heap of photos, which I'll leave here, you can have a look at, of 47 dead trees where they've pushed the dirt up, 27-foot long stumps, tree branches that have fell. Luckily, probably they haven't hurt anyone that's in the stable yard, but they're all fell up against the Cosgrove Street side. They're still sitting there now, so you can go down and take photos of. I was assured by this gentleman that they'd maintain it. They've done nothing, haven't mowed it. It's still got the same weeds on it. We still see the same rats driving across the top of the wall, and nothing has been done. Like I said, hence, you guys have already made your minds up about the buildings. I don't care. But I care that rats and dirt and crap and everything's blowing over the fence, and all the stuff that they don't... Go and have a look at my place at 16. I think my place is the best maintained house in the street. I'm proud of it. But I've got to look at that every friggin' morning, and it just annoys the crap out of me. And, you know, no one's doing anything. And the gentleman here is probably going to tell me again after the meeting he'll do something about it. But not one weed has left that hill. Not one lump of grass has left that hill. Not one rat has left that joint. We still have the problems. So that's all I've got to say. If you want to build it, build it. I don't care anymore.
Thank you, Glenn. Question?
Yes,
Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Councillor Kados.
Please come.
Glenn, thank you for coming along. It's a really important principle, actually, of planning committees that we don't come to a committee like this having made a preconceived decision, because that would defeat the purpose of having people like you come along. So I'm certain that no one here has made a decision either way. It's really important that we do hear from the applicant and all of the objectors so that we can actually hear your voices firsthand. And I really thank you for coming along. So I want to assure you, I certainly haven't made a decision either way. I really want to hear what everyone actually has to say tonight. I guess I'd just like to know if there's anything else you would like to say while you've got the opportunity.
I'm too upset at the moment. I just really, I debated whether I was even coming here because I knew it was going to be a waste of time. The most annoying thing is the conversation I had with the gentleman at the Geelong Race Club last year that they would do something about it, and not one weed has been pulled out of that site, not one. So I'm sure he's going to get up here and tell me that one day they mowed it back in March 2024, but I can guarantee you it hasn't been. So if he wants to lie, I've got the photos to prove what's over the fence right now at this point. I took them an hour ago. So, you know, how do you get away with that?
And Glenn, just one final question. Did you raise any of those particular concerns with anyone else actually at the council, the officers or anyone else? Because that's obviously something that you could
Last
have
meeting
done.
I spoke about it at the meeting, that the trees were dying. They pushed all the dirt up against the trees and they're killing off the trees because they're not getting any water now because the dirt's pushed all the way up against it. And the rats and that, well, obviously I brought that up at the last meeting because there's rats that, I've seen cats walking across the road with a rat in its mouth. So, you know, like jump the fence and well, they used to get under the gate. So, but now they've put this tin fence up at least, they don't get under the gate, they walk down the road. Or same with, you know, and I'm happy that you've moved the horse gate now and the horses don't come in there. I'm not saying they've done nothing, but they're doing nothing to any of the things that I addressed last year, not one thing. They've moved the gate, but they moved that 2 meetings ago. You know what I mean? So surely if I dug a pool in my backyard and dumped a whole heap of dirt out the front on my front lawn and put a little fence up, someone would complain, you know, and killed all the trees that were growing there, surely someone would complain. But there's not one tree there that's worth even trying to, well, maybe they can, I don't know. I'm not an arborist, but go in there and see where the dirt's, you know, 6, 10, 12 feet up the tree stump of trees that are trying to grow and they're not getting nothing. So surely that's not good for the trees, you know. And when you look at all the dead branches on the side down behind these trees, obviously it's not good for the trees. So if it's not good for the trees, why have them? You know what I mean? Or why not at least clear the dirt away or do... I don't know what to do. I don't know how to solve the noise issues. It's not my, you know, it's there. I've got to put up with horses kicking fences and doing stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning. But the trees are just, you know, I feel like I'm, you know, a real tree hugger or something. I don't know, but I'm just annoyed that the place is not improving. It's actually getting worse. So the site of the racetrack has actually got worse than what it was 12 months ago. And no one could deny that because I've got the same photos from 12 months ago and you can look at the trees 12 months ago because, you know, it's just ridiculous.
Thanks very much, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. I'd like to call on Luke Rayner from the Racing Club.
Councillor, Luke Rayner, CEO, Geelong Racing Club. I appreciate the opportunity to address the committee. I will declare that I will only talk to the current planning permit application and nothing that I guess is predecessors the application. I think that's just really important from our perspective that we are representing here today the club and its current application for a stable redevelopment. The Geelong Racing Club at this particular site, 99 Breakwater Road, was established in 1908. It has been there for a very, very long time as a racing and training centre. It is in existing use for the purposes of racing and training of horses. The industry is a significant economic driver within the city of Greater Geelong. It contributes 91 million of economic activity annually, 696 full-time jobs, 8 million in customer expenditure and over 3,300 participants. The new stable development, once completed, will have the ability to increase full-time jobs in the vicinity of around 30 to where they are today. The existing stable facilities that we are talking to at the moment and looking to replace were constructed in 1981. Their current condition, in our view, as a racing club, have got to the point where they are no longer fit for purpose. And as the landlord for this particular site, we obviously have accountabilities with regards to workplace environments, occupational health and safety, obviously horse welfare and so forth. So the underlying principle to why we are applying for this application is to upgrade the amenity. Not develop it. Yes, there is slight intensification in terms of the number of horses, roughly around capacity of 87 at the moment to 100. However, that is also covered off as in the special use zone, that intensification can be allowed. There is no doubt that the amenity overall, from a planning point of view and a building point of view, meets the required regulatory and minimum standards that we need to adhere to. The new facility will be much more uniform, much more cohesive. It's further set back from obviously the Cosgrove Street dwellings to where the current setback is of the Malady Stable complex. The design meets all welfare requirements from our perspective. The Geelong Racing Club don't design the horse stables, and we consult at all times with the Welfare Department of Racing Victoria, veterinaries, representatives, horse welfare representatives. The industry builds stables year on, year out. This is not a quasi Geelong Racing Club design that we think's suitable. It's on best practice and best standards, and that's the design that we've put forward in the application. Following our previous consultation meeting where the objectors and myself sat with planner Andrew Page at the time, I certainly heard and listened to the objections at that time and understood predominantly where they were coming from. And the club proactively undertook the noise and the odour impact assessments to allow the City of Greater Geelong Planning Department to make a more informed decision, even though at that time it was just purely in the application phase. We're certainly not here saying that we don't have responsibilities and accountabilities, and I'm sure should a permit be granted and the conditions that are associated with the permit, we are accountable to those conditions from a compliance point of view. As I say, the racing club, its existence at this particular site is steep in history. We are a large economic impact provider, and the employees, the horses, the stable hands, the people that work at our current facilities, okay, they also need to be deserved of the opportunity to work in an environment that is appropriate for their level of work. And these amenities are purely, in my view, a significant upgrade to what we see there currently today, and I would hope that would also reflect a significant upgrade and process and accountabilities that should also be to the benefit of the residents versus what they see there today. That's all I have to say.
Luke, do any councillors have questions? Councillor Cadwell?
Thanks very much, Luke. Thanks for coming along. Obviously, it's good to hear your perspectives about the project as well. I know that you mentioned that you don't want to discuss any of the previous issues, but I think some of the prior history has obviously been outlined tonight. So I guess I'd like to know why you think the objectors are still remaining unconvinced and why they're still so adamant in their objections, given that you have obviously had some conversations with them and it seems as though you've attempted to amend the application to appease those objectors, but they don't sound like they're particularly convinced that that is actually going to solve the problem. So can you tell us a little bit more about that situation?
Well, in regards to the mound, I can only obviously talk to its most recent history. I've been at the club 3.5 years. Okay, so I can't talk to what's occurred pre my time, but certainly the mound, if you like, it was part of, and again through the previous permit that was issued, it was required for that mound to be continued to assist with the odour and the noise impact. Okay, so that was a recommendation from the noise and odour impact experts at the time through their report, and that was part of a planning permit requirement for that mound to be continued. So I think the mound is obviously the mound. I understand it's not the most attractive piece of landscaping that there could possibly be, but it is obviously serving its purpose or assisting its purpose with regards to the odour and the noise impact from the current stables, the existing stables. Our guys have a once a month maintenance program on that mound. Now, is that enough? Well, that's debatable. The trees that we are looking to remove as part of where the horse walkers are, they are a danger. They are constantly losing their limbs, and that is a danger to the workforce that's currently there on site. So as a planning proposal, it is as part of our application to have them removed for the safety of the site. You know, again, our business is the Geelong Racing Club. We are the landlord. We have tenants that occupy the stables. We're not there 24/7 with them. We obviously have accountabilities that we need to ensure that we meet. So, to my knowledge, from an accountability point of view and a council requirement and environmental and planning department officers and so forth, we have not been served any form of notice or requirement to say that we are doing otherwise.
One of the residents who's made the objections, actually a couple of them in fact, made a comment about potentially relocating the stables to what they believe is a more suitable site. Have you got any comment on that?
Again, it's an existing use site. It's been there since these particular complexes were built in 1981. So around that is other supporting amenity, such as the current swimming pool, our track watch supervisor huts, which obviously have to facilitate the safe practice of training, the training tie-up stalls, toilets and so forth. It also is part of what you would call a crossing. I'm not sure if there's you understand the racing vernaculum in terms of access to the tracks is via a crossing, which is always past the winning post. So it can only be in that precinct area. So for us to relocate what you would say is 80 stables, which have been purposefully built in the last 5 years, brand new, over $3 million worth of investment, full-time jobs, etc., and then relocate your tie-up stalls, relocate these said stables, relocate pool, relocate, and then build a tunnel from a vehicle and a pedestrian point of view that would have to get out into the middle of the training tracks. You are talking circa lots and lots of money, well beyond our capability. So from a viability point of view and from a racing and training guideline point of view, there is no sense in moving those stables, because it's not just those stables you would have to move. You would have to move the rest. The whole training complex would have to move.
Thank you very much, Luke. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councillor Cabell, any other councillors have questions?
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Luke. No, it's not. Sorry, I sort of made that clear at the start. It's a forum which gives us an opportunity to ask the applicant and the objectors questions, but it's not a to and fro between objectors and the applicant. Sorry, it's... It's not I made that clear at the start about the procedure of the meeting. So, I understand the point you're making. What I might do is I might ask Joanne Van Slageren perhaps to respond, because it's an enforcement issue rather than the planning permit that's before us tonight, but I will have Joanne respond.
Thank you, Councillor Katos, and I think that's quite correct. The issue that is being raised is about previous applications and enforcement, which is a separate issue. We can't really detail that tonight. We're looking at the application before us. That application also isn't about relocating the buildings. It's about replacing the buildings where they are. So that's all we can really make a decision on tonight. I understand the residents are concerned, but at this stage, that's not part of this process. It's not up to the officers to be questioned at the moment from the gallery.
So, yeah, I understand, but oh, and you have a question? Yes, Councillor Story, apologies.
My bad.
Thank you, Councillor Katos. A question for the officers. When we look at the amenity, paragraph 15, all external plant and equipment must be acoustically treated or placed in soundproof housing to reduce noise to a level satisfactory to the responsible authority. Who is the responsible authority?
Council's a responsible authority to make sure that those conditions are complied with, yes.
Thank you.
Can I answer the question? Across the way, it becomes very low.
Thanks very much, Chair. No, that's fine. Understand.
Thank you. So we have a recommendation before the committee that the responsible authority, having considered all matters which the Planning and Environment Act 1987 requires it to consider, decides to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for buildings and works for the construction of horse stables and horse pool associated with major sports and recreation facility at 99 Breakwater Road, Breakwater, generally in accordance with the plans and documentation submitted with the application, subject to the conditions. Do we have a mover for that? A mover for the motion? Councillor Nelson, a seconder?
Can we still put forward the alternate?
Sorry.
Can we still put forward?
Second it for the purpose of the vote. We might just have a quick recess, give us a few moments, and we'll just... All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We had a bit of a technical issue there. Councillor Sullivan was actually happy to second the motion, but he couldn't hear us online, so he's...
Are you happy to second this for the purposes of debate, Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, I think a motion has been tabled. Originally, I'm happy to second it for debate.
Okay. We have a mover and a seconder, so Councillor Nelson is the mover. Over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Katos. I completely understand. I've been at a lot of these planning meetings, and I completely understand the concern from the gentleman in the front row there. I can only make decisions on planning. I can't make decisions on rats, and I can't make decisions on smell, and I can't make decisions on what VCAT said 3 years ago. I can only vote on what this is. Yeah. Yeah, and I can't vote on council's ability or inability to enforce that VCAT ruling. I can only vote on what's in front of me here, and
We'll continue with the...
So hopefully this will be enforced. I'm not part of that area, so I can't go in there and ask what they're up to because I'm not allowed to do it as a councillor. But there are a number of conditions on this planning application with regard to landscape works, with regard to tree protection, with regard to waste management, as we heard before from the waste. So these things are in here, and they should be enforced. Well, they must be enforced. The applicant's sitting there and he's hearing me saying it. So, but again, I'm not part of that enforcement team. I can't go to an officer and say, you have to go and enforce that. But on these planning grounds, I support the application.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Sullivan is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope you can hear me all right there in the chamber. Going over the papers, for me, I've considered everything that's before us the officers put forward, and I thank them for the recommendation and the report, and as well as to all the objectives and speakers who've come in tonight as well. This is an open process. No councillors came into this with a predetermined outcome in their mind. Going through this, the strong waste course has been here for quite a period of time, and as has been mentioned, it's all online with the intended zoning there and the outcomes that requires. This has been an area that has had these facilities on site, and the argument about, I understand the argument from objectives that this is complete redevelopment, but I do disagree. I'm concerned and do want to make sure that all of the requirements put upon this development are adhered to, and there have been quite a few listed. But that being listed, I do believe that the Geelong Racing Club has the ability to meet those requirements, so I don't believe them to be over or above and beyond. And by going what we have in front of us from a legal standpoint, I do second and support the application.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Cadwell? Oh, Councillor Story. Councillor Cadwell.
Age before, what is it, age before beauty? So thank you to everyone who's presented tonight and everyone who's spoken, including the officers, obviously the residents of my ward, Cheetham Ward, and of course the applicant, Luke. Thank you. Look, I'm still not convinced that the matters raised by the residents and the objectors have been adequately addressed. I'm sure that the GRC can address them, and if a revised application was to adequately address those concerns and to come back to council, I'd certainly be willing to consider it. But tonight, I don't feel that I can actually support this application. And so I will be foreshadowing that I'll be putting forward an alternate recommendation if this initial recommendation is not successful.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Story.
Thank you, Councillor Katos, and I'd also like to thank all who've come here tonight, and particularly the distressing personal stories that we heard. In a former life, I spent a bit of time on the back of a horse, sometimes exiting fairly quickly off the back of the horse, but I understand the points that have been made about how horses smell and the issues around that. I'm very cognizant of the professionalism of our officers and our particular departments that look at particular legislative and regulatory requirements. I'm certainly not an expert in acoustic engineering, but I'm just a little bit concerned about the concerns that have been raised about noise and whether the treatments that have been approved, and I accept that they're approved by our specialist officers, might actually work. So I still have some reservations about this application. Thank you, Councillor Katos.
Sorry. Councillor Burson?
Yeah, I also have concerns, and I thank everyone for turning up. And I had no idea what this was about deliberately before I came here, hence why I've been reading this thing the whole time. My issues are going to be that if we vote a certain way, that VCAT will just say that it's fine under the appeals process. But I feel like the racing club had an opportunity here to work with the people in the area to fix their issues as well. And I'd be interested to know from the architect how much money difference would have been if we'd put it somewhere else. But I fear it's meeting all the obligations regardless of people. And that's the issue I have, is whether it's just going to be us dragging it out for you guys and it goes to VCAT versus us saying that it should have been a different way. I'm obviously new to this on being able to vote on things based off what the actual laws say versus what emotions have. So that's my issue at the moment. But thank you very much for coming in, everybody.
Councillor Burson, I might just say a few words as well. Look, I also understand the concerns of residents, but I've also someone who's been very aware of existing use rights, having probably been in an industry that makes horses smell good. Being in the fish industry for 20 years, we had existing use rights down on the waterfront, and I understand your concerns, but I also see that everyone knew the racecourse was there when they purchased, and I appreciate that. And I understand you've got issues that probably need to be addressed, and some of the enforcement, and I think perhaps the club has taken that on board. But as I said, the club's been there a long time, and they're replacing essentially like for like. If it was a substantially bigger facility and a lot more movements, I could understand that. But from that perspective, look, I support the motion that's before the committee. Well, with that, I beg your pardon. Sorry, I forgot Councillor Nelson to close. Thank you, Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Councillor Katos. I just wanted to talk about the conditions. Another one of the conditions was the acoustic treating. I don't profess to know anything about acoustics, but what I do know is, as a ward councillor, if these conditions aren't met and you see it, I would contact your local councillor or contact officers and just keep doing it. I tell my residents, just keep calling me. If people don't do the right thing, call me. That's what I'd suggest. Thanks.
Thank you.
They're on the Geelong Australia website.
Councillors are on the website.
Yep.
Look, sorry, we've now have to.
Because you have the opportunity to be leaders, as I was saying to Luke.
Thank you. I appreciate you speaking, but everyone's given the opportunity. We're now at the stage where we need to vote on the motion. All the councillors have spoken, had their opportunity to speak. So with that, I put the recommendation to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? All right. So with that, I have a casting vote, and as I voted in support of the motion, I vote to support the motion, the recommendation. So that is carried. The meeting is now closed. Thank you.
Is this your first one? Yes. Yeah, that's probably the most tame.
The meeting is now closed at 6:45 p.m.